Ever since I was a little girl, I loved stuffed animals. It didn't matter if it was large, small, velveteen, or cotton. I would love it just the same. I received one on every gift-giving occasion. Birthdays, Easter, Christmas. Before long, I had quite the collection. Like I said, I loved all of my stuffed animals, but one in particular stood out to me. One in particular grew to be my favorite. My pet cat died when I was 10 years old. I never really paid much attention to him. I always preferred Plush to the real thing. Despite this, his death hit me pretty hard. I regretted neglecting to give him the love and attention he deserved, so much so that I cried for almost the whole day when I'd found out. Until I saw my mom, that is. My mom came home from work a little bit later than usual. She more than likely followed the sound of sniffling to find me in my room. Upon entering, my face lit up with joy. In her hands was another stuffed animal to add to my vast collection. Better yet, it was a cat. What made it unique was the stitching and design. My mom told me that she bought it at a pawn shop on the way home from work. The man there said it was made implementing the Japanese art of amigurumi. This was the process of handcrafting stuffed animals, usually with anthropomorphic features. It did have a rather large head in comparison with its body. It was also sewn together with an unusual fabric. To add to its odd nature, it had 2 different sized buttons for eyes, with no mouth or nose. It was perfect. I named my new friend Harvey after the cat I had lost. After a short while, I forgot all about the real Harvey and fell in love with the stuffed version. It was always there for me whenever I felt sad, distressed, or simply needed a friend to play with. I would take Harvey to bed with me every night. He was my best friend, for a time. Only one thing could drive a wedge between our friendship: adulthood. I lived with my parents until the age of 23. This is when I graduated from college and decided to move into my own apartment. The apartment complex was a couple of towns over, so I wanted to minimize the amount of trips it would take to transport my things. As such, I sat in my room for an entire day, going through everything I'd ever owned. It was no simple task, but it would be worth it in the long run. With the amount of stuff that I owned, it definitely needed to be done. After going through almost all of my belongings and filling up 3 large trash bags, I opened my closet door. There, I found my enormous pile of stuffed animals. It would take 2 trips to transport these alone. Luckily, I knew a better way to handle the situation. Without hesitation, I began shoving all my stuffed animals into bags. The things that used to mean so much to me would soon be heading for the town dump. I didn't care. After all, I was a grown woman now. I had just graduated from college, got a decent job, and was moving out on my own. Plush had no place in my life anymore. After filling up another couple of trash bags, I came across one stuffed animal that made me stop what I was doing. There, at the bottom of the pile, was Harvey. I had forgotten all about him. Good old Harvey, my best friend and protector. He would chase away my nightmares and eliminate my sadness, no matter how I was feeling or what the reason was behind it. A warm smile danced across my face upon remembering all the good times I'd had with Harvey. I supposed that keeping just one stuffed animal wouldn't hurt. I took Harvey for myself and threw out the rest. He would be a keepsake from my old home, a reminder of my childhood. After a long week of paperwork and signatures, I was finally the proud owner of my own place. I moved in quickly and set up most of my things within a day. I enjoyed the process of arranging and rearranging my new home. It was exciting, knowing that I had finally entered what my parents and teachers had always warned me about: the real world. In reality, there was nothing to be scared of. You just had to know how to operate on your own. You just had to know how to handle it. I had unpacked everything of mine by nightfall. After all was said and done, I decided to lie down on my new couch and take a nap. I was exhausted. Unfortunately for me, upon closing my eyes, I heard a loud bang come from the kitchen. I jumped up abruptly as the noise frightened me. Did someone break in? On my first day here? I certainly hoped not, but I had to be certain. I crept over to the kitchen, slowly, so as to not alert the intruder of my presence. With each step I took, a new butterfly would make its way into my stomach. By the time I reached the point where I would have to turn the corner into the kitchen, a flurry of butterflies called my stomach home, each one fluttering about at a nauseating pace. The only thing that could put my nerves at ease, however, was actually venturing into the kitchen and revealing the nature of the noise I had heard. I bolted around the corner, ready to fight off any would-be attacker. I found no such thing. There, on the kitchen floor, was a box. A few feet away from the box was Harvey. A wave of relief came over me. I must have left him in one of the boxes. It fell over, creating that loud noise I'd heard. Thank goodness. I picked up Harvey and threw him back into the box. I placed the box back on the kitchen counter, this time in a spot where it would not fall over and disrupt my slumber. I then made my way into my bedroom and proceeded to fall onto the bed, almost instantly falling back asleep. While resting, I dreamt. In my dream, I was a small child. I was at a birthday party for one of my friends. At the time, I didn't realize it, but the setting was odd. My friend's birthday party was being held at a carnival, off in the middle of a field somewhere. On top of this, I hadn't a clue as to which one of my friends was celebrating their birthday. In the dream, I simply enjoyed the festivities. There was one more glaring absurdity in this dream. Harvey was there. Not the plush cat. Harvey, the real one. He was alive and well again and refused to leave my side. I went to go get some cotton candy, and he was there. I went to go see a magician perform, and he was there. I even took a ride on the Ferris wheel, and Harvey came up with me. It was actually really nice, until I decided to play one of the carnival's many games. Harvey came with me to one of the tents to watch me play a game. I had 3 tries to knock over a stack of milk bottles with a pellet gun. My first and second tries heeded no results, as I completely missed each time. On my 3rd try, however, I managed to successfully hit one of the bottles at the base of the pile, causing all of them to tumble over. That is when I heard screaming. I turned around to see what all of the commotion was about. Behind me was every single person in the carnival, huddled around and staring in my direction. They all seemed very troubled by what they were seeing. One of the men who worked in the carnival even took his hat and put it to his chest in dismay. I was more than a tad bit confused at this point. What were they looking at? I observed their expressions a bit further and realized they were looking behind me. I followed their line of sight back to where the milk bottles had been. This is when my dream became a nightmare. Instead of seeing the fallen milk bottles, I saw Harvey. He was lying in a pool of blood where the bottles had been. My thoughts ran wild as tears ran down my face. He's dead, and I killed him. But how? Before the guilt could set in any further, the man running the tent came over to me with a huge smile on his face. "Here's your prize." The man handed me a plush kitten. I took it while still crying and noticed something. It was Harvey, the stuffed version this time. He was inanimate, of course, but I could feel his button eyes glaring at me in disgust. My thoughts were running haywire with dread and confusion. They were soon interrupted by movement from behind me. I dropped Harvey to the ground and turned to see what was happening. Everyone from the carnival was looking at me. They were even closer to me, which made me feel claustrophobic as well as frightened. They were completely silent, but their eyes spoke to me. They gave me an unforgiving, collective stare that I will never forget. I grew more and more unsettled by the moment, before finally waking up. The dream was over, but the fear had only just begun. Upon waking, I heard more sounds coming from the kitchen. It sounded like a small animal, shuffling around and knocking things over. I jumped up out of the bed and ran there as fast as I could, unwilling to indulge in the nervousness of a slow approach again. What I found when I arrived was strange. Cabinets were open, things had fallen to the floor, and the box I had left on the counter was turned upside down. What could have caused this? I was a bit scared, and became even more so frightened when I recalled my dream. I knew it was impossible, but what if Harvey did this? I quickly discarded this thought, realizing how ridiculous it sounded. He was a stuffed animal, for God's sake. How could he do anything? I was just letting my off-kilter nightmare get the best of me. I actually laughed out loud a bit at my own idiocy. Unable to explain my kitchen's messy state, I went back into my bedroom. Just to be safe, I locked the door behind me. After making sure the door was secure, I turned around to head back over to my bed to get some sleep. My blood immediately ran cold upon doing this. Resting on the center of the bed was the reason for my state of shock. It was Harvey. But how? I left him in the kitchen. The kitchen. It was Harvey, wasn't it? He made a mess of the kitchen. He somehow sprung to life and came to my bedroom, didn't he? No, of course not. That is impossible. Quite literally, it is impossible. It can't happen. I was just being ridiculous again. What, was the ghost of my dead cat possessing its plush counterpart to get revenge on me for neglecting him as a child? Or was my stuffed cat simply coming to life to seek out the attention I no longer give him? How preposterous! I walked over to my bed and picked Harvey up. I looked at him with a smile, remembering, once again, the good times that we shared together. He had always been there for me, no matter what. Even if he somehow had come to life, there's no way he would cause me any harm. There's just no way. Before setting Harvey back down on the bed, I noticed something. He was damp. Not only that, but he was stained. But what from? I ran over to my bedside table and turned my lamp on. I looked back at my bed and saw it. It was blood. It had stained both my sheets and Harvey. But where did it come from? I felt a sharp pain in my back as I pondered. I must not have noticed it before with all of the adrenaline and whatnot. It was now beginning to hurt worse with each passing second. I decided to go over to my dresser mirror and lift up my shirt for a better look. What I saw made my heart sink. There were scratch marks.